Uh, hey again. So I guess this is gonna just be a semi-regular format when I'm making these kind of things where I just talk about a few topics or whatever, a grab bag of topics. It's just playing this game in the background because why not? I guess it's something to do while I ramble on, I guess. And this time I did make a list of topics because for whatever reason there was a bunch of topics that kind of came up that I figured why not talk about, I guess. And the first one is, I guess, today or earlier today, Matt uploaded a video where he was basically saying like he thinks he thinks that he thinks that he might have, through use of his stove that he built or whatever the past few days, possibly gave himself carbon monoxide poisoning. Um, and yeah, I mean he doesn't know for sure if that's what's causing him to feeling the way that he is, and I don't think anybody's sure or whatever. I personally don't think it's carbon monoxide, but just I don't know. I mean, that's one of the main things that I'd be saying is like, well, why wouldn't the cats be having significantly more symptoms? Like, like if that was the case, I would think the cats would be experiencing significantly worse symptoms. Because they are much they have not exponentially, but they have extremely small bodies compared to him, to a human being or whatever. So I think that they would start experiencing those symptoms way, way quicker if that was the case. And they're in the same house and everything. Yeah, they're lower to the floor, but I doubt that would really make a difference if that was the case. So I kind of doubt it's that, but that's just me. I don't know. I have no clue. That's just my opinion. Um, and I don't know. It seems like a lot of people that I've been reading, similar with the CV stuff, have been feeling kind of weird, like the past little while, like since the past like a few weeks or some shit like that or something, or even longer than that for some people. I don't know. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's something related to that. I think that most illnesses and stuff, quote unquote illnesses, this disease is some kind of like difference in frequency or something, more than whatever they say, like these explanations they have and stuff. So I don't know. But hope he feels better and all that stuff. Um Sorry, I'm almost at my nose is kind of like feeling runny a little bit. So I'm like making that kind of snorting noise every once in a while. Um but on that topic, I wanted to mention the kind of weirdness, or not weirdness, but I mean I guess it's always weirdness, but the synchronicity that Matt mentioned, the carbon monoxide thing, and just a few like, yeah, I wouldn't say it was like exactly recently, but like I don't know, 2 months ago, maybe even shorter than that. My I guess mostly my mom, but then my dad as well were kind of adamant that I go online and order some some new carbon monoxide detectors, because the ones we had not been like changed or whatever in like, who knows, probably like over like a decade and a half or some shit, a very long time. Um so yeah, they were adamant about that, and it's just kind of, as synchronicities work. it was just kind of interesting that it was just kind of interesting that carbon monoxide being brought up, and only recently, like, my parents, asked me to get them new carbon monoxide detectors and shit. Just a little synchronicity there for that whole thing. And the other part of Matt's thing I wanted to bring up was, like, I mean, you wouldn't know just from watching the video, but then if you went through the comments, which I was, I guess not too long after Matt uploaded that video, some 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 good, possibly good intentioned asshole, if you want to call it, or whatever, some good intentioned person, good intentioned person decided to call the what do you call it, the, like, emergency services. Like, I don't know how that worked. I don't know if they actually just called, like, all of them and said, like, I need the police, the fire department, everything, or however the fuck that worked, who knows. Or they just decided to call in everybody. The whatever, the services just decided to call in everybody anyway. But what was it? Yeah, like, he had in his comments, like, basically, somebody called, like, all these emergency services and shit. And he had all those people at his house or whatever. The ambulance, the fire department, probably the police and all that bullshit. And yeah, like, I would say that was one of those things where it's like, you probably shouldn't be surprised that happened. Not so much that should be the automatic response that people do or whatever. Like, it basically being doxxed as a, like, as a streamer, or not doxxed, but swatted as a streamer in a way. In this case, a quote-unquote good-intentioned swatting. A welfare check, or whatever. But just the idea of, like, these, basically, like, I guess the term is now, like, parasocial relationships, or whatever. Like, people have, parasocial connections with, people that they watch on YouTube and stuff. Or just in general, whatever, streams, YouTube, whatever. And I think it is very obvious with Matt's audience that he has a lot of people that are like that. Which, it's understandable that there will be a lot of people that are, like, have a I guess you could say, like, a personal kind of connection with Matt and stuff, to the point where they think that, like, Matt is their personal friend and shit, and they have to go through lengths like that, like, calling the emergency services on them, without them directly asking, kind of shit, or just having that thing where it's like, they feel the need to do that out of, like, some kind of, Like, it's something they have to do to, like, I don't know, to... Because me, that is not the first thing that I would personally, like, think of doing. Like, oh yeah, let me call the police, let me call the ambulance on this person. And then you see some of the people in the comments. I don't know. That's just me. It's like, I'm not saying I wouldn't care about, like, people that I consider friends and stuff. It's just like, it's kind of hard to describe. Like, it's not that I wouldn't care about those people enough to, like, do something like that, like consider having a welfare check done or some bullshit like that if I really thought that they needed it or something. But just, I guess, just the people having this, like, immense feeling, like, of like loss if something happened to somebody like Matt, like, you know, the person that they're parasocially connected with or whatever, the internet personality, whatever you want to kind of call it. But I guess I kind of feel like Matt doesn't seem to realize that people have kind of, there's a lot of people that have a very weird, like, you know, as it's called, parasocial connection with him and stuff. He doesn't kind of realize the extent of that. And probably most people that have YouTube channels and stuff don't realize that either, because probably most people wouldn't consider that as being, like, the first thing that they would consider, like, oh yeah, like, I expect my fan base to do something stupid, in my stead because they're concerned about me, or something like that, or something against my wishes because they're concerned about me. But obviously, like, I mean, it was only probably less than 2 or 3 hours that somebody decided to basically swat him in a way after he uploaded the video and shit. So he'll probably have to reconsider doing that kind of thing again. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of just the topic there I wanted to mention, is like the... I mean, I guess you could say that the same kind of shit would happen with people, like, maybe years back or whatever, like decades ago. Decades ago. Well, I mean, they still would, I guess, with the way that people idolize, like, stars or whatever you want to call it, like influencers and shit. So I guess it's not that abnormal to see that still now, like, even nowadays and stuff, the same kind of shit. But I guess me personally, I see it a lot more like that. Like some of those other streamers, not so much streamers, but other YouTubers that happen to stream. Like, you really do see that extreme, like, parasocial kind of crap going on, where it's like you got people in their chat that donate, like, hundreds of dollars, maybe not a stream, but, like, just overall, to this, you know, to the one streamer or whatever, just to get, like, one... I mean, maybe you could say that those people aren't doing it for the streamer, they're just doing it for attention in general. That's I think that's a reasonable thing to be considered there. But like, what was the point I was trying to make exactly? Just the... it is just very strange. Like, And I guess maybe the point I'm trying to kind of like get is that people are nowadays much more inclined to do that kind of weird shit. The parasocial kind of shit. The parasocial kind of shit because they don't have like they don't have any connections with people in real life anymore. So they they get that through people online. So like if that person that they are parasocially connected with that they watch would, you know, did go away or something happened to them, they wouldn't know what to do with themselves or whatever. Like they wouldn't know where to go, kind of. They'd be lost. It's kind of like those people that it's kind of like those people that are into like the bullying of like the lol cows and shit. Like those kind of people, the ones that are kind of ironically in a lot of cases actually worse than the lol cow person that they are like fucking with and obsessing over. If you actually like saw their if you actually saw their kind of like situations in their lives, you'd probably like see that yeah, they're even more fucked up, if not worse than this person at the end. Like they're even like if they had a following, they would be a lol cow, just even worse than the person that they consider a lol cow or whatever. Um, yeah, I know I got way too much of a ramble about that, but yeah, it is weird the parasocial nature of the of YouTube or just in general like these kind of things, and even with somebody like Matt. And I guess it makes more sense for somebody like Matt with his kind of channel and stuff where he's kind of he's kind of catering, not so much catering, but he is kind of in a niche of people that are in a much different situation than a lot of others, I guess. Like a lot of people in this community wouldn't come on this the quote unquote community or whatever wouldn't consider themselves like normal people or whatever, like part of normal society kind of deal, wouldn't fit in with normal society. So without somebody like Matt, they would literally feel completely isolated because even normal people don't like don't see what they see and stuff. But yeah, it's just weird, and you know, I would think that Matt would have a little bit more of a grasp on the fact that he that he has so many people within his community that are like that, kind of like, you know, weirdly parasocially bonded to him and all that stuff. So, but then it's also that's the other thing I wanted to mention, that it's also ironic that these people that are a part of this supposedly like fringe group of the truth community kind of deal, or whatever you want to call it, the awake people, so many of them are willing to just immediately they're willing to just immediately like go right to that conclusion, like, oh yeah, go right to the quote-unquote authorities, or like the ambulance, like that kind of, not the ambulance or the doctors and all that kind of shit. Yeah, but like right away you're not feeling good, so you must believe like what they tell you, the doctors and stuff. I don't know, and I know that's not really what like Matt was going for, but these people supposedly in his community immediately going towards that conclusion is the interesting part. Because it's like, well, you think all those people would be like, oh, well, That's the last thing you should do. But apparently a lot of those people, no. They right away. And, you know, not to be, like, shitting on women or anything, but, I mean, maybe I have uh, my perception is a little biased here, but, maybe my perception is a little biased here, but it seems like the vast majority of the people that kind of are talking, I mean, you know, it's hard to know exactly what the person is from online or whatever, but it seems like the vast majority of the people that are like overreacting immediately, like, oh man, you got to go right to the ambulance, or that kind of shit, are females. Like, looking at their profile names and their pictures and stuff, it's just like, it's just women that are like very parasocially bonded to Matt in many ways. Like, they're like, oh man, you're my only, I don't know what I do without you kind of shit. That's the fucking weird kind of stuff to me, and it's like, oh shit. But I think I've said probably enough about that specific topic. Next thing I wanted to mention was just the weird, wacky weather. Like, I know they have the whole saying or whatever of April showers bring May flowers kind of thing or whatever. But yeah, this April has been really fucking strange in terms of the weather, like more so than usual. I'd say, and this shouldn't be surprising because this seems to be always the case now, is the weather is all fucking topsy turvy. But right now we're like, it's like we're, I probably mentioned this before, but it's like we're living, it's like we're living in the UK or some bullshit, or like Ireland or Scotland or something, like one of these places like over there where it's fucking like always rainy and like cloudy and dreary out and cold or whatever, and like pretty cold because we've had like maybe 2 or 3 days, like not even consecutively, just like in total, where it's been like pretty comfortable, like warm weather you'd kind of expect from the spring. But it's been like fucking like autumn or winter, really shitty weather this entire spring, and it's just this entire spring that we currently have or whatever, and it's just fucking strange. And I know a lot of places are experiencing the same. I mean, I know Matt's not that far from where I am, so it's not that surprising, but I know we're not the only people where it's been like this, so it's just kind of weird, as everything is. Uh, and yeah, Rudy, I know I responded to one of your community posts that you mentioned I guess the thing that I brought up in my last video, something about Chris Chan and his concept that he brought up with like the dimensional merge or whatever. Like the cartoon world is going to merge, the cartoon and the video game world is going to merge with this world, this quote unquote reality, um, at some point or whatever. And yeah, it's a pretty out there little theory from a very strange fellow, that to say the least. But I mean, it is funny because we're almost observing the it's like we've already observed the cartoon world being merged with this world already. Not so much like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, as or whatever, like just literally like, oh yeah, you're gonna see Sonic the Hedgehog or whatever the fuck. But just the concept of like the cartoonish and absurdist kind of like behavior just being, what would be the word? Like, just being, behaved or whatever, being behaved by the people around us, like, just being, like, clownish, like, fucking Looney Tune characters. uh, and yeah, I don't know, I'm sure Chris Chan, you know, wherever the fuck he, she, it is right now, probably in, like, a fucking homeless shelter or some kind of asylum, who fucking knows. Or not asylum, but, you know, like, some kind of facility that is away from a lot of people or whatever, or some kind of welfare shelter thing, who fucking knows. But probably still might still be talking about stuff like that, the dimensional merge, who knows. But yeah, kind of a funny thing that years ago everybody would say is absurd, and it is still absurd, but like, just the fact that it has something that seems like nowadays to us is like, you know what, that's not too unbelievable. If not, we might be experiencing that and seeing that right now. Pretty funny. Um, and yeah, that was just something I was gonna talk about, because what was it? On my other character, my druid. The past yesterday, I healed for like 2 dungeons. SM Armory, SM Cathedral, and then Razorfen Downs. And you know, my character is nice. Nice. My character is feral, or, you know, spec into feral and all that. Doesn't have any points into, like, the healing spec or anything, restoration. But he does have a, you know, like, a serviceable healing set or whatever, like, you know, at least gear with, like, intelligence, spell power, or whatever, healing power and stuff. So I was like, yeah, I could do any role. Whatever we need a tank, I could, well, no, I wouldn't tank an SM or whatever, because I was definitely under-leveled for those places, so that would be a bad idea. But, I was able to heal, because that, your level doesn't matter nearly as much for healing compared to tanking, for the most part. But, yeah, I was healing, and healing is funny, because I enjoy healing. It's not like my favorite thing to do or whatever, but, I do enjoy it. I don't dislike it. But it's one of those funny roles, and it's probably the same in every MMO that has that kind of role or whatever, that kind of the holy trinity kind of deal and stuff. It's probably the same for them all to an extent, but yeah, healers healer's funny in WoW, at least, because it's like you're not even like necessarily in that role of healing. You're just kind of like there as an insurance policy. Like, if stuff starts to go bad, if a pull goes badly, then we need somebody to heal, kind of thing. Like, there are situations where it's like, yeah, the DPS wouldn't be able to kill this, like, boss fast enough before somebody would need, like, their health restored, kind of thing. But in a lot of situations, like, healing is really almost not even necessary, because depending on, like, the tank and the DPS and stuff, like, you know, almost no healing is really necessary. But it's just kind of interesting, the observation that it's like, yeah, healing is not really needed, but it's just kind of an insurance policy more than anything, if stuff goes bad. And that, if you're only healing, it can be kind of boring, because depending on how, like, competent the group is, you probably won't need to be doing much healing at all. Like, in this group, we were taking it slow and everything, and you know, people, the tank and everything, and the rogue, they were like, you know, playing actively like they weren't fucking asleep or whatever kind of shit. So it was going smoothly there. So I didn't really need to heal that much. Um, and you know, from that in that sense, it was like a little bit boring throughout some of it. But it's kind of nice if you're a healer that is not kind of like that. Like, you know, maybe some healers, they're just like fucking smoking weed 420 and like they're just chilling out. They're like, fuck it, I don't give a shit. So they just sit in the back even if nothing's going on. They don't try to like do anything extra. They just keep the bars filled. Hey man, if that's what you're into, that's cool. Um but me, like, I'm like, hey man, if I'm here in this role, I'm just kind of an insurance policy more than anything. So when that insurance policy is not being needed, then I'll just DPS because fuck it, I can do that. Which I think is cool. Like, I personally like the ability to not only heal and being able to like DPS as well when your role is not needed at that moment or whatever. You could use your other utility and stuff and engage not just with the health bars, but you know, doing damage and all that other stuff. So it's just kind of an interesting observation I had. But this is why I like playing all the different roles in the game. It's enjoyable because you realize like they are quite different from each other to an extent. And at least in vanilla, that kind of difference can be expressed quite a lot. Um, yeah, this escort sucks. It's probably one of the shittiest escorts, just because the guy literally goes like all the way back to Ratchet instead of just stopping like midway and saying, "All right, I can make the rest of the way back." It's like, no, not this one. You got to make it all the way back, motherfucker, even through all this boring shit. That you're almost, if you're doing this quest, you're almost 100% out leveled for. But hey, I guess it's the perfect quest for rambling. I don't know what this guy's doing, but he's got a macro on Frost Nova. And I don't know, man. People that fucking put macros like that, text macros, especially something like that, yelling on your fucking basic spells like Frost Nova, what the fuck is wrong with you? That is just so fucking stupid. And I've seen a good few people that do that kind of shit. It's like, what the hell is the point, dude? That is so fucking dumb. Like, look at this. That is so stupid. Special type. Special type. Um. Oh yeah, there is a respawn. Oh no. Well, kind of. This man. Wow. Nice. Okay, that works. This guy is literally like aggroed almost fucking everything. Um. But yeah, there. Yeah, just keep moving, dude. God damn. But this guy that he does like modding for sort of, he does like modding and stuff for the Warcraft 3 in the Warcraft 3 engine. Um and I'm guessing he's been doing it for quite a long time, but kind of recently he got a little bit of a spike in popularity to some extent a little bit, because he got talked about by a few other like Warcraft 3 YouTubers because he made like some video after they recently like updated Warcraft 3 Reforged to like 2.0 or some shit. Um, he was basically one of the people that like somewhat dissecting and berating how like crappy of a update it was and stuff, and still scuffed the shit. Clearly, Blizzard doesn't care and all that kind of stuff. As if that wasn't obvious enough, like, you know, fucking 5, 10 years or more at this point. But yeah, he made some funny videos, like mostly meme videos, but he made like this kind of, you know, very not even like very bare bones, but it's not a very like much complete recreation of Warcraft 3 in Java, like you know, like he recreated that he I don't know if he still is, probably somewhat, but he made a video, um but yeah, like recreating uh Warcraft 3 in Java, and you know, trying to make it like open source and stuff, that kind of deal. But he mentioned that he mostly kind of does it as a he mostly is kind of been doing it more like a meme than anything, and just for his own amusement, than actually like having plans to really like actually finish it and make it like a real like thing and an end product at the end of the day kind of deal. And it was just interesting watching his video that he released like earlier today, because he was just kind of talking about some of the stuff, and then kind of having like a somewhat existential, like, I don't know if it would be existential crisis or an existential moment, where he's kind of like, you know, why even do something like this, like recreate this old game in this new engine, or not this old game in this engine, when, like, you know, at least from his perspective, he's like, you know, AI is gonna just fucking, with it, after some point in time, AI is just gonna be able to recreate this on its own, and it's gonna be just like a trivial thing to do this kind of thing, this not porting, but recreating this in a different like code base or whatever. So he's saying like his work that he's doing now is just kind of, after that point, after that point forward, is just going to be complete waste in that sense. Like, nobody's going to give a shit, because they're like, well, I'll just recreate it in with ChatGPT or whatever. You know, what does your work matter? You're you know, you doing it personally to recreate this thing or whatever in Java. Um, as well as just the kind of like, in his sense, like leaving a legacy or whatever. And, you know, like, to me, I never really, not that I never understood it, but it's one of those things that I never was really concerned about the idea, especially after so even more so after I kind of like realized the nature of this place and stuff. Like, that was never a priority or something I really cared about, was the idea of leaving a legacy or some shit. Like, why does it matter to leave a legacy in a simulated environment, or whatever you want to say, like a fake reality or whatever? Like, what is the purpose of doing that? Uh, but it's kind of, I think if you watch the video, even though it comes off as like very like not super schizo, but like a little schizo, but very rambly kind of deal. I mean, probably the same as my shit. Um, but maybe even a little bit more disjointed or unhinged to some extent. Um, yeah, this video. Let's see.
I'm Reddit. I'm the guy that
This one. Uh,
ruins work. What that means?
and he made like this. He made like this chart where he's saying like what point between his, you know, everybody, at least, you know, what he's saying, everybody's birth and then everybody's death, between these 2 points in time, These two, what he says would be like constants for every human is like that you're born, and then you have a point where you will die after being born. So he's saying between these 2 points in time, like where something like ChatGTP and AI was like became popular or whatever, and then like the time that he decided to work on this project or whatever, and then when that project became anything between those 2 points, when would it be like that nobody would give a fuck? Like, I mean, I even mentioned it. I remember when what's his face posted. I mean, Uncanny Deduction, whatever, Christoph, that guy. I mentioned he was talking about his book, saying like why does nobody care about his book or whatever, like are all these people just fucking idiots, like they don't give a shit about my book kind of deal, like it's the secret to everything kind of, or whatever he felt. And then I made a video kind of responding to that, saying like nobody cares about what you do, and it's the same thing with everybody else, like nobody besides you care what you do, kind of like deep down, like maybe people will have some kind of like interest here and there, but for the most part, nobody gives a fuck what anybody else does besides their own stuff, kind of like, especially not enough. Like even, um, you can even kind of get that from Billy's videos, Stardust Simulation videos, where he's talking about the making your own business or making your own company or whatever, and compared to working for somebody else, like working on you're living somebody else's life rather than living your own life. Like you're working for them, you're living their life rather than you living your own. And but it's the same thing, like people don't really give a shit about anything that you do. um just That's just kind of the fact of the matter, I guess. Like no matter what you do, people won't really give a shit about it. Not near, especially not anywhere near as much as you yourself care for that thing or whatever. Um, and this guy saying that's the same thing with his like his attempt at Java recreation. His attempt of recreating Warcraft 3 in Java. Like he said, like there are so few people that will give a shit about it, that have even tried to like play with it or whatever, like it has no relevance or whatever, like no matter how much work. And that's, I think that's kind of the nature of like all of this kind of software and open source stuff in general, is that until it gets to like a certain point, like the person doing the project or whatever, they kind of have to they kind of have to um do a certain amount of work before anybody will even touch it. Uh, they have to get it to a point where they have to get it this. There's like some threshold or whatever you want to call it. Like there's some point where people actually start contributing and caring about like somebody else's open source project. But before then, for the most part, just nobody will give a shit. There might be a few people like watching it here and there for updates, but actually contributing or like interacting with it, you're almost gonna get nothing for like the longest time. Like I think to an extent, that's how something like DFU was for like a fairly long time. Like until it got some kind of legs and started to look like something, and people can actually like sort of interact with it without having to jump through a whole shit ton of hoops. That's like the only time where people will actually start caring, and then the kind of that ball starts getting rolling for the um for an open source kind of code base kind of thing, project, whatever you want to call it. That's like the only time that it starts to matter to people. So until you're able to get to that point, like it is kind of just a waste of effort to, I guess, because until then, people like just will legit not give a shit about your project at all, or they won't have any like desire to interact with it or whatever. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll show the title of the video. That's his art. Oh, I think my camera is blocking it, so I'll turn that off real quick. Yeah, this guy's channel, Retera. I'm the guy that ruins Warcraft rant. It's an hour long. Um, but it is interesting if you're like actually kind of listening to it is seeing somebody who's probably somewhat more on that probably more on the sort of normie spectrum, kind of having one of these existential moments or um existential crises or whatever, kind of like questioning, like, will this stuff ever matter or whatever? Like, should I even bother? Why are less people interacting with the modding communities for these games? That kind of stuff. How stuff like, to him, AI has changed and will be changing. And he uses AI a lot. Like, a lot of his videos, he uses AI for like the voices to mess around with them, like having Arthas Menethol voice acting or like Jaina Proudmoore voice acting and him having them say like what he wants them to say in the video and then using it like in a machinima kind of deal. Um, so he uses it quite a lot, but he also has many opinions about it and many thoughts on what it will become. And yeah, just a video you might find interesting from a guy who who seems somewhat interesting himself, but also on that more normie spectrum, I guess you could say. I think like the way he looks at the things and the way he views the future and how it's going to develop. Me, I mean, I obviously I could be very wrong, and I probably will be wrong, but like I think a lot of this stuff is just kind of going to stall out to an extent. Like it's going to almost like just like everything, it's going to stagnate. Um, and then people are just going to be wondering like, why isn't this thing getting any better? It's just staying like basically the same. That's what I'm thinking. This AI craze is going to kind of lead to in the end. Not even the end. It's just gonna be like that. It's just gonna be constantly just lukewarm in the same place it was for like the longest time, and nothing's ever gonna change or progress further than like this like meme generation bullshit that it is now. And another video I watched, which I wasn't expecting to have a topic, but it just kind of made me think about it, was this guy.
All right, guys. So
This guy channel. Once again, yeah, this channel Tyler Tube. He just kind of uploads like every video he has a sponsor and shit, and he always goes through the sponsor. I mean, he's like one of the less obnoxious kind of one of these types of channels where they like review stuff and fuck around. Like he's kind of obnoxious, but not nearly as much as some. So he's like he's on the more tolerable side of that spectrum, I guess you could say. But yeah, in this video, I guess he decided to play around with a like whole 3D printer setup that he got at some point, and he said he spent like he said for this like one video, it's been like the longest time he spent on making like one video. He said it's like been 500 hours of like work he's been putting into just getting these 3D printed items and stuff that he's made. These tools, 3D printed tools that he's been making, and then now testing them out to see how shitty they are, or how good they are, or whatever, for being 3D printed. And just like he had a display of all of them, yeah, like stuff like this, like hammers, wrenches, sockets, uh, just all 3D printed shit. And I mean, as you probably would expect, even a jack stand for a fucking car or whatever, 3D printed. But as you would expect, for anything like above a certain threshold of force, almost all of them failed fairly spectacularly at their job. Not all of them, but most of them. And how much effort he had to do, as he said, like, had to initially invest into this shit just to potentially save, quote unquote, some amount of money from buying like an actual good, like well-made version of one of these tools, or somewhat even just like cheaply made, but like out of a material that is more sensible, like metals and stuff, instead of this fucking 3D printed filament melted plastic shit. And all the hours he had to put into having the machine actually like make each piece, and as well as the, the actual 3D modeling part, or getting that 3D model for somebody else who made that to put into the machine and stuff. And the point I was trying to make is like the just seeing this, like the uselessness of modern and future technology, such as something like 3D printing, which probably from like stuff like Star Trek, people right away would be saying like, "Oh man, it's gonna be like the, what do they call them in Star Trek? What do they call them? The replicators, or some shit like that. The whatever they called the things that they had on the stupid ship that would make like anything, any like material item like food and everything. It would just make it right there. Whatever they called it, replicators. I don't remember. I'm not much of a Trekkie, but whatever that was, like, people imagine that would be the future. Probably now they would think like we should have that kind of technology now. Well, now we have 3D printers, which are kind of there to act like that kind of thing, but then in reality, all they do is just kind of make they just kind of make they just make plastic junk. They just make plastic junk. Like, the usefulness is so, like, when you're actually like get down to the nitty gritty, the kind of usefulness is so limited for this like supposedly like crazy future technology that people can now use. You have to put a lot of effort to actually make like to actually get the setup right. You have to have a decent, somewhat decent money investment to get, like, I guess, somewhat decent 3D printer set up. The investment of actually like having the 3D model to use to put into the 3D printer to actually print from, that, whatever you want to call it, the blueprint, the schematic. And just like every aspect is so like useless in a practical sense. Um like what's the best uses for like 3D printers? Like, even stuff like even stuff that you think would be like a given, it just kind of really turns out to be like not that good. Like, even the speedrunner, like degenerates or whatever, the speedrunner autists that need to have their fucking their N64 controller perfect to play Mario 64 to get to the top level, like to beat like to shave 2 more seconds off of the Mario 64 record and stuff. Like, you know, they would try to use these recreated sticks from 3D printed stuff, and they do not they do not hold up. Like, they have no durability or longevity for people that are like using them for like repetitive tasks, like using as a controller thumbstick. Um, and like the only way that they found they had like good quality is from people like actually doing like fucking lathe stuff on metalworking and stuff, making like actually steel sticks or whatever they call them. But even something small like that you think would be a given, like, yeah, it's not good. It's not good. The recreation is shit. The application is barely there. Like, it's not, it doesn't make a good quality thing. And like the only practical application I see with this quote unquote future technology is something that doesn't even have that much practical use. It's purely for the aesthetic use of it. It's just like having crap sitting around, stuff like 3D printing figurines or whatever, like little models and figurines, like for D&D tabletop shit, like painting minis and figures and stuff like that, like amiibos or whatever. That kind of stuff is like the main use of 3D printing, and it's just kind of like a joke. Everything else, like, there's almost like, I'm not saying there's absolutely none, but for the most part, the uses that somebody would imagine would would it be like something that would have been in the future, something, oh yeah, that like we're gonna have that solved so easily in like this many years. And it's like now in modern day or whatever you want to say, in the future, there is none of that, or it's like such a neutered, watered down version of what people expected it to be or thought it would be, and it's just like laughable. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I just found it funny that he mentioned like that he spent all those hours just to make these tools that are barely functional for their intended purpose. You know, and people could say, "Hey, man, it's just you just do it for the fun of it or whatever." But in most cases, people wouldn't look at something like a 3D printer and say, "You know what? That's something that I want to do just for fun." They would do it like they would want something kind of practical to come from it. But clearly, this modern futuristic technology that people would have been like drooling over decades ago is like just garbage. It's just garbage, and it's really not useful at all. It's once again just like kind of like with this AI and this ChatGPT. Like I think ChatGPT and AI stuff has more use than fucking 3D printers. But even that is it's just like a meme thing. Um, and yeah, I don't know what my point was there. It's just one of those more proof of the reality or stalled century. This kind of realm, almost like being stagnated or whatever. Like the stalled century, the stagnation of progress, quote unquote progress in technology, whatever you want to call it. Like it's just been like stunted or stalled or whatever because none of this future stuff, like even this bullshit, like the Teslas and the fully electric cars, flying cars, like all that stuff has been just constantly the same bullshit, just pushed back and delayed or like put in applications and like not actually shown to be done well at all, mostly just like scam shit. Or in like the 3D printers case, it's just not nearly useful at all compared to like what it was hyped up to be all those years, decades ago, when they were like, oh yeah, we're just gonna replicate stuff with like something like a 3D printer, and it's all devices are gonna have no use because you could just 3D print them yourself, and it's like no, that's not the case. That's not the case. All you do now with these 3D printers is maybe print out like a really poor quality dildo. I don't know. A really ghetto looking amiibo or whatever. Like it's besides that, like tools are pretty much useless like for anything like that. Maybe here and there, but most of it it's just like garbage. And yeah, you got a few people saying, "Oh yeah, you got certain filaments you could use that are like made for better like more high quality applications." And it's like, well, how much does that stupid filament cost, and how well does the machine actually run it? So how much money more do you have to invest? Like at that point, are you even saving money or whatever? It's like it's just silly. It's just fucking silly. But this ain't surprising at all. As usual, it's just not surprising. Um, it's just something as another proof of the fake reality that I observed and I thought was interesting and I felt like bringing up. Um, and that's pretty much all my notes. Wow, I seem to be very good at talking for like nearly exactly around an hour, and then I run out of things to kind of talk about. But yeah, I guess instead of going farther, that was a pretty long ramble. But thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time, and hope you're doing well and all that. But take care.